Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bolters and Banter podcast. I am your host, Tyler. With me is Nick, who has slaved over the script all week.
Yeah, and I'm not even paid either. Can you believe this?
No, I will never pay Nick. Anyways, before we get into that, we wanted to quickly shill. It's only going to take a second. Firstly, happy Halloween. By the time this video comes out, it should actually be right on Halloween. We have this beautiful spooky art that was made by V. I am a cat. V is a mouse, and you're like a Dracula thing.
That sounds pretty sick. I'm down with it. I'm serving the vibes.
Anyways, as far as the shilling goes, go ahead and join the Discord. If you want, you can check out the Patreon. And hopefully, we can get this to stop being a negative net project. Other than that, if you're looking for the Halloween giveaway, it's probably going to be in the comments. By the time we are recording this, it is the 20th. So we wanted to give it a little bit more time before we drew a name. Other than that, Nick, give us some spooky content.
All right. Speaking of spooky content, I was half tempted to interrupt you when you talked about Happy Halloween because really, we're Warhammer fans. We know what this holiday is really about.
I suppose it is Orktober.
It is Orktober. It is time for war. So listen, man, when we did that lore accurate Space Marine video, it got some really cool discussion about how game balance is fake, and if you want to have lore accurate things, it would not be fun at all. However,
doo-doo video idea for real. Best comment.
Yeah. And so I guess the idea was that if we're not really interested about game balance, I want to do something of what if this game was lore accurate, how bananas things would get. I mean, it's Orktober. I love orcs. I love reading orc books. I think I've read like all the Mike Brooks books. I've read Hell's Reach. I just read 15 Hours.
In fact, you had to read a book for this.
I've read 2 books. I reread Hell's Reach, and then I read 15 Hours, and then I flipped through Xenology.
I gave Nick a week to do this.
Brother, I actually really like 15 Hours. I finished that jam in 2 days.
Oh, sick.
It is my new favorite guard book.
But yeah, you guys seem to like that video, so we're gonna do some orc stuff, because Orktober. And then we'll probably do some future stuff. Some people were mentioning custodians. Someone I think mentioned Imperial Knight.
Oh,
I think we can make a series out of this.
Oh god, Imperial Knight. Oh.
Imperial Knights is going to be brutal to do.
All right, but let's start with the Orc Boy, because I think it is a quintessential... Okay, if we're talking like chaff units of just a horde of big guys, they are like one of the 3 horde armies in the game. Tyranid, Orcs, and the Imperium of Man, the 3 hordes of the universe.
Okay.
And so we're going to use the standard Cadian Guardsman as our template again, and then compare the Orc Boy to that Cadian. Tyler, do you mind reminding these people of why we want to use the Cadian Guardsman as our template here?
Yep. So real quick, if you haven't seen the first video, this isn't like a shill. Go watch the other video to drive up the view content. I actually would recommend watching that because we go further into detail on how we are getting these numbers. But we need a place to start from. So we are using the Cadian shock troops as our base data sheet. Just because we need a starting point to go up from. And it's just a guy. It is just a human dude or dudettes or they them.
This is an unaugmented human. Now they are trained to go on the battlefield, and these are...
It is a soldier.
Yeah, these are Cadian shock troops as well. They are, drilled right in a world next to the Eye of Terror. They are some pretty kind of elite dudes, but...
They're some hard motherfuckers.
Yeah, but other than that, they are average human like durability and ability. So that means we're going to be using their data sheet as a reference for what a human can do. Movement of 6 inches on the tabletop, toughness 3, a 5-up armor save, 1 wound worth of health, a leadership of 7-up. And we are ignoring objective control because that is a totally game system thing that I don't think we can really show as a bio
Yeah,
factor
you
almost.
can't like really get that into these videos. And we're also not covering weapons and abilities, anything like that. Um, we're just looking for the the big stat line.
Yeah, the basic stats here. And so I guess we'll start with movement because that's actually the easiest. So, with some clever movement math, since a board is 60 inches long, based on the fact that Acadian can move 6 inches, and we figured out that humans can run around 15 miles per hour, it figures out okay, if we know that it takes them 2.2 seconds across 48 feet, then we know that they're running 50 miles per hour, which is not the worst. These are athletic people. They are in full kit, but they can at least cross that distance. And now all we got to do is see what it would be with orcs and then apply that ratio to 6 inches.
Yep. So how
Now,
did you figure out how fast an orc can move?
well, that's the thing. In all my sources, the only time that orcs are considered moving faster than humans is in some of the Mike Brooks novels, where they cover a surprising amount of ground because they have somewhat longer limbs. However, they have short legs in comparison to their heavy torsos. And in the 15 Hours in Hell's Reach book, they have been observed running down fleeing guardsmen. So they're at least a little bit faster. I don't know how much faster. It could be just due to morale and getting excited with like adrenaline pumping through their system. But then again, I don't know if
Mm.
orcs have adrenaline because that's a human hormone and orcs are weird. Um,
So are you saying it's basically the guardsman stat line of it still remaining 6 inches?
I think it still remains 6 inches. Orc boys are less likely to be tired of running just based on their metabolism, but in terms of their max speed and of their ability to like move and fire, there's no sources that say they're necessarily slower or faster. I'm going to err on the safe side and say that's actually probably going to still be 6 inches because making them any faster necessitates more reliable sources in that regard.
Okay. I mean, I can believe it. I'm just a little skeptical because from our Space Marine data sheet, we had a movement of like 18 inches.
That is
Now,
true.
granted, there's more books and knowledge to go off of for Space Marines, but
In 15 hours during the full height of like a Wa assault, it is said that the orcs were able to cross the no man's land with incredible swiftness. So I think their speed depends on their Wa state. And that, the Wa changes a lot of things. And also, we're just doing orc boys, not war bosses or knobs who have different physical abilities because they happen to be bigger.
yeah, okay. I think
Yeah, so we'll keep that at 6
six is
inches.
fair. For the most part, they're airing towards a general human physique and uh, level of durability and whatnot. I mean, we'll go
Oh,
into it
not
later. Well,
not
hang on. Wait, wait,
durability.
wait, 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 wait,
All
wait,
right, all
wait.
right, yeah, yeah.
Just being able to withstand more damage and being able to swing a lot harder, I would say, is my kind of notion of orcs.
Yeah, they are around like they're not like super massive in terms of like height. They're
A
two
space marine is
meters
still
tall.
more elite than an orc.
Yes, that is true, and that's what's meant to be. I mean, depending on the source, a space marine could take on 10 orcs or like 2,000.
Yeah, it varies.
So
Okay.
yeah, orcs are definitely more chaffy. They're tough, but they're a little chaffy.
So we're keeping with the 6 inch movement. Got it.
Okay, I have to talk about toughness. This
So real quick, I noticed that toughness was the very last thing to get added. So um yeah, let me hear how much this caused you, like how much pain this caused you.
So the way I did Space Marine toughness is I determined, okay, I'm gonna figure out that toughness is based on how much kinetic energy a target can absorb without like staggering or potentially having armor damage. And then you talk about like the material that's used to do armor penetration. So basically, I'm like, okay, in the previous video, I figured out how much kinetic energy a bolt round has, figured out how many bolt rounds it would take to stagger a Space Marine like 50% of the time, and then calculate how much energy a Space Marine could absorb.
Yeah.
Now, that means I need a source that tells me how much kinetic energy a orc can get struck with before stumbling, staggering, or basically being stopped in their tracks.
Preferably from a bolt gun, just so you don't have to do less math. But yeah, I got you.
True, yeah, preferably from a bolt gun. Problem. Bolt
Yeah?
rounds don't stop orcs. They go through them. And if
Yeah.
they don't go through them, they just explode. But the orc will keep running, is the problem. Because the bolt round doesn't stop. It's part of the problem with toughness versus armor, that they measure different things. And someone in the comments made a good point that armor should really be rolled before toughness. But the point is, I could not find a single source that tells me an orc is getting hit with a ballistic weapon.
Now, hang on. This is an important thing to talk about because you are the orc guy who has read the presumably most orc books out of our circle of people we know.
Okay, when orcs get hit with solid things, because in most books I've read, they've been hit with las guns or maybe bolts from bolters. The bolts don't stagger the orcs; they just kind of like explode, and you don't really get anything from that. The las guns, we don't know how much kinetic energy they have because we don't even know if las guns are light, and so, I'm like, okay, what else do we have? Oh, melee combat, right? I could figure out how much energy an orc is going to get hit with when they get hit by something. I don't know how much force an orc or space marine swing with because they're not real. And I can't judge based on that because the size of space marines and orcs varies based on the source.
And orcs just vary in size.
Exactly. And a book written from a space marine perspective has space marines hitting orcs way harder than a book written from an orc perspective. And so you get a little wonky, and orcs are much more variable than space marines are. Because an orc boy, the line between orc boy, orc knob, and orc warboss is so blurred. There's no like cutoff, it's not standardized.
In every orc boy, there is an orc boss waiting.
Exactly.
Waiting.
Exactly. There are two wolves inside you. Both of them are screaming wah. So I decided, okay, I read through the Orc Mike Brooks series again. Got nothing. I re-listened to the audiobook Hell's Reach on my way to work this past week.
Great.
I got nothing. Because it was all las guns, But then in 15 hours, there's one moment near the very end where a dude hugs an orc, pulls 3 frag grenades, and that's able to stop the orc, right?
Okay.
So we have an upper limit.
Does he throw them all at once or separately?
What he does is just has them in his hand, just gives the orc a bear hug, and just goes boom. It's actually pretty based.
That's pretty fucking guard-based stuff.
You know what?
Average guard activities.
Honestly, 15 Hours is an incredible guard book. It's my new favorite guard book over Kane, dude. It's so good. But
heresy. You need to go read the Minkola series.
Okay, so I figure, okay, if I can get that, I know at least an upper limit for the energy that an orc can absorb. Modern frag grenades contain about 60 grams of TNT. That's about 276 kilojoules of energy. Multiply that by 3. If they're equivalent to like 40k frag grenades, because that's what the dude had, that's 828,000 joules.
How does that work? 276 times 3?
276 kilojoules. Kilojoule is 1,000 joules.
Oh, kilojoules. So okay, sorry. I'm reading these. Yeah, I got you.
Dimensional analysis. Didn't you take high school chemistry?
You think I paid attention?
That's your YouTube.
I slept in class. I do YouTube now.
Oh gosh. All right.
I'm a pro gamer.
Yeah. So now this actually puts it below the amount of energy that a Astartes would absorb 50% of the time. I argued in the past video that it takes 950,000 joules to stop a space marine 50% of the time.
Okay. And this 828 could be way more than we even need.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying that an orc actually has less toughness than a space marine.
Okay.
Now, space marines have power armor that helps lock them in place, helps absorb a lot of energy and diffuse it. Orcs, in terms of their actual biology, they're mainly just, they have big bones. They have like reptile level skin, basically, in terms of how tough it is.
Scrumptious mushroom flesh.
They do. Their muscle tissue has a bunch of mushrooms in it, and their bone marrow is fungal. So they can absorb energy, but not as much as a space marine. And so I'd say that this would probably put basic orc boys between a toughness of 5 to 7 based on our previous numbers. So I'm going to
Okay.
say a solid toughness 6. This should
Because
proportion.
our space marine is toughness 8, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it puts us like above the guardsman, closer to the space marine than to the guardsman. And if we want to argue that those 3 grenades would stagger or stop the orc more than 50% of the time, which I agree with, then I would say like toughness 6. And I wouldn't go farther than that because T5 would be too close to a guardsman. So I'd say toughness 6.
I'd almost say 7 because I could see orcs in a pretty good amount of times just taking that damage and just walking it off.
Well,
Because
this
orcs
gets
do
in,
have that swinginess.
yeah, and that gets into wounds. So I'm gonna say like, in terms of how much kinetic energy they can absorb before their brains get scrambled due to the shock, I'm gonna say toughness 6.
Okay, toughness 6 is fine. That's still a considerable leap up from a human.
Yeah. Now, in terms of things that aren't an improvement above the human, you want to talk armor?
Ooh, do I want to talk armor?
Yeah. So
I haven't read through your show notes.
okay. So listen, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm listening.
In your experience and looking at all my orc models, what armor do orc boys wear? The average
I could pull.
dude.
I could pull a funny reference.
Oh, sure. Go for it.
T-shirts.
Okay, yeah, the t-shirt save.
The T-shirt save.
That is basically true. When you're talking about orcs, unless they're wearing like mega armor, it's not the top priority. Think about it. Think about the orc mindset, all right? Put yourself in an orc
I am
shoes.
in the orc mindset.
All right,
Speak to me, Nick.
you're given a piece of metal.
I'm crumping.
You're crumping, right? You want to crump? You're given a piece of metal. You can turn this metal to anything you want.
Yeah, I'm
And
turning into a crumping tool.
Exactly. You're making it into a chopper. Why would you make it into a chest plate or a helmet?
Right? And if I already have a chopper, I can just make another chopper.
Exactly. 2 chopper or a big chopper.
That's
you
more
can make a big
it's
chopper.
more crumping.
Exactly. So why bother? And that's why there is almost no way that a typical orc boy's armor should stop a lasgun. I mean, think about this. The only armor I've seen orc boys wear on, let's say, the typical orc boys model would be one of those funny helmets with the funny spikes on them, which is made of just beaten
Sheet metal.
Yeah, and some orc models have like basically rectangles of sheet metal that are kind of like hooked onto their chests, and that's pretty much it.
And you know, that's another important thing to point out is that while the orcs might think that this, you know, inch thick sheet metal might be impervious level armor, you know, crafted by the finest boys, I don't think it's gonna stop anything.
Absolutely not. Like in terms of the flak armor that guardsmen actually have, and like carapace armor being a 4-up, if the flak armor on the guardsman sheet is a 5-up, and that could reliably stop rounds, I think the best an orc has.
Lasgun rounds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Orcs, I don't think have that thing now, unless they have cover. The only reason an orc should be able to save against some of the weapons in the 41st millennium is if they can get cover and only have their helmet exposed.
Nick, an orc taking cover?
Exactly. See, you're already thinking like an orc.
I'm thinking like a 7-up save.
That's what I meant. I'm thinking a 7-up save is really what's appropriate here.
Oh, is it actually a 7-up save?
That's what I said.
Is. It really is in the show notes.
Yeah, since even if they were in cover, an orc would probably only have a 10% chance to block a hit, really. And without cover, an orc would rather just run towards you and tank the shots, because why would it bother having armor if it will eat 6 lasgun shots and still run at you at like 15 to 20 miles per hour?
That is fair, because even if the guardsman armor stops the lasgun, they only need 1 lasgun round to die. So if an orc is still taking 6 like it's nothing, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, we can get into wounds.
All right, let's get into the funny numbers. Give me the funny numbers.
Have you looked at the wound count yet?
I think I saw early show notes, but I haven't seen the updated. Okay. I haven't really looked at it.
Okay, that's fine. So
I'm not scrolling
Tyler,
down.
you did most of the math for how we decided to do wounds. Can you run us through
Yes.
that? Like quick, like little 2-3 minute recap.
Yeah. So, um, as we stated before with our guardsmen, our one wound is basically the entire health of a human. You know, like if video game terms, it is the 100% health bar. Okay. So what we tried to do is try to find realistic combat deaths statistics, specifically like killed in action, so negating infection, any preventable injuries, such as like hemorrhaging that you could stop, stuff like that. We tried to take those and apply it to a guardsman, break it down, see what portions go to what, and then apply that to a Space Marine and see how Space Marine difference. So Talis is going to put up
Mm.
what we have on screen. It is not the best source. If somebody has better sources we can use, great. But this has been so hard to find, and specifically we need combat deaths killed in action, which isn't something that I could find a lot of. Because as you could imagine, everybody wants to prevent deaths, not just see, oh, well, a lot of them were headshots, and we can't really do much about that.
Yeah, and these are just deaths, not like casualties, because casualty
Yes.
statistics are used most often.
Yeah,
So,
that is what you're going to find when you look up,
mm.
combat statistics.
Yep.
But
So we
anyways, just the
yes.
general categories, we had head and neurological trauma being 36% of what would probably take somebody down. Torso and internal trauma. Real quick, head and neurological. This is also counting spinal column, nervous system damage, probably some shock too. After that, we have torso and internal trauma, which we have 41%. This is your vital organs, your heart, your lungs, severe hemorrhaging from the chest. After that, we have blast and extremity trauma at 14%. This is heavy blood loss. This is honestly where most of the shock is going to come from. And then lastly, we have respiratory at about 8% of causing, combat deaths. This is collapsed lung, airways blocked, you can't breathe, stuff like that. And that makes up everything we need. And we're excluding, again, infections and complications of surgery and stuff.
Hmm. And so what I did is I looked up like how many times more likely an orc would be to survive something, or like how much it would be reduced by. Add up those numbers, divide it. I would multiply it by the inverse, and then I would get my number of wounds. So,
Yeah, skipping past all the numbers, let's get into how you got these funny numbers.
alrighty. Let's start with the head and neurological trauma. Now, orcs not only have much thicker skulls than humans,
They have
which
bigger
is
brains.
okay, sort of. I mean, it's
I
not that
don't
they
know.
have
They
bigger
pull off
brains.
some pretty cool science.
They do, but it's like instinctual knowledge, not because of learning. But nevertheless, they use their thick skulls to headbutt a lot of things. But even if you take out a solid chunk of their brain, maybe 50% brain mass, they can still live.
Just gouging it out with a spoon.
Yeah, multiple orcs, most notably Big Man himself, Gazkul Mag Uruk Thraka, ended up having a solid bit of his brain blown out, and he still made it out alive after a pain boy got him.
Also,
Where he
it's
put,
important. It's important to note that when they take these severe head injuries, it's not like real life head injuries where it leaves, it could do practically nothing to them, as where there's the case where I think like that one guy who had the rebar go through his head.
Phineas Gage.
Yeah. Or, where you lose a tiny chunk of your brain and you are now paralyzed or something worse. Orcs, no, they're crumping. They're joking and crumping. They don't care.
Yeah, no, I am talking like, again, 25 to 50% brain mass loss, and they can get up after like several hours of recovering. In fact, it was the case of in the 15 hours book that the orcs in No Man's Land,
Uh-huh.
if you let them live long enough, like if you let them just their bodies lie down, they could just get back up.
They
after
just need to
healing.
sleep it off.
And so it is said also in the 9th and 10th edition codexes that orcs can normally survive temporary decapitation.
That is a fair point. They can do head transplants and stuff.
Yeah, one orc war boss, I believe, transplanted 2 orc heads onto the same body because he found
Oh,
more heads than other parts in the trash pile.
you know what? More heads means more computing power, more crumping potential.
Yeah, it means more
You can
thinking.
you can see more.
Exactly. It means louder screaming of wah. And in the Farsight supplement from 6th edition, Pain Boy Toothjaw is a very particular Pain Boy that whenever his war boss got really big and ended up having an operation under the Pain Boy.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is the guy where he's stealing little bits of the boss and putting it into himself.
Exactly. The war boss would notice that he would always get slightly smaller every time he went into Pain Boy Toothjaw's knife.
The boss is gonna notice if I take his arm. Pinky finger.
Yeah,
Pinky
exactly.
finger. If I take 70 pinky fingers, I'll eventually get that whole arm.
And orcs grow as they fight. So all Toothjaw had to do was wait until his boss was big, steal his body, and then just keep going. And yes,
Just a little off the top, huh?
That included transplanting his own head onto a new body, which also happened to Uftak Blackhawk in the Big Daka.
Okay, so what we're getting at is brain injuries. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Now, if you want to perma-kill an orc, it is possible that you can lop off the head and then burn the body, and that would help. Because if the head can't communicate with the rest of the body, well, then the combat effectiveness is reduced.
Yeah.
But again, if the head can be put back in the body within an hour or two, then they can keep crumping, and that's terrifying. So I would argue that this makes them 4 times more likely to survive a headshot.
Yeah.
Or neurological issues.
I would say so, because going back to our space brain, I think we said like 1.5, just slightly better. And comparing this to like what a human could reasonably take, it's insane. 4, I think 4 solid. You could maybe argue for a little bit higher, but I think 4 is good.
Yeah, let's be conservative. I'm biased later in this section. Let's be conservative.
Oh, you're telling me you're biased on this episode?
Hey, let's talk about torso and internal trauma.
Sure, Nick.
Okay. Hey, did you know orcs don't have complex organs?
Really? You mean they don't have like the squishy bits, like the heart and the lungs and the
they have rudimentary lungs that are also gills for some reason. They should. They have a multi-chambered stomach.
Go off, King.
They have a rudimentary renal system, and
that's the pooping part, right?
That's it. They don't mention having a heart, but they have to.
So the old ones made sure they had the pooping parts, but not the heart.
I mean, they have blood, and the blood's gotta come out. So, I mean, do they have a closed circulatory system or an open circulatory system?
I'm gonna say that some either the lungs or the renal system or the stomach is serving as the heart.
I guess
you can guess which one I think it would be.
Maybe they just have so many muscles that their muscles, all of them, just pump the blood around rather than just one muscle doing it.
They are the hearts.
Yeah, and we do know they have a digestive system because we do know that they eat squigs and they go to the drops. We know they have outhouses, basically.
Eating squig.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what eating squig tastes like? Do you think it tastes like mushrooms?
Honestly, yeah, I could imagine like a shiitake steak.
Yeah,
like the texture taste of a shiitake mushroom, but like thick and juicy.
Yeah. Now think about this: an orc takes a shot into the chest with the las gun, sears whatever organs are there. It keeps going. You hit it 6 times in the chest with close range las pistol shots.
He's pissed, but he's still crumping.
Exactly, and that's what happened in Death or Glory, the Caiaphas Cain book. So, the point is,
Uh-huh.
Orcs don't have organs, like that many organs to puncture or hemorrhage. And even then, even if you do puncture their stomach, it probably isn't stopping them. The rest of their organs are basically just a fungal soup that is pushed out by their bone marrow, which is just like fungus anyway. And this allows them to sustain incredible damage since the spongy mass that makes up their muscles is also super dense.
You mentioned fungal soup, and I pictured Minecraft mushroom stew.
Yes, it is mushroom. When you prick an orc's finger, what comes out is mushroom stew.
Are you look, conspiracy theory. The
Yeah.
the mushroom cows in Minecraft are just orcs. They're proto
Um.
orcs.
Okay, I'm gonna go one step further. The mushrooms, as they're
That's what I'm
called.
saying. The mushrooms.
If you eat too much of their meat, you
You
become
become
a
an orc.
zombie. No, you become a zombie because it's the cordyceps fungus from Last of Us. Big brain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I wish orcs were Minecraft. That would make life so much easier.
Yeah.
The closest we
Yeah.
get are the hoglins.
I guess like piglin. I don't know. This is a
Piglins
Minecraft.
are
Where
piglins are pig
they're
people. Anyway,
orky. I don't know.
yeah. So I would argue that the torso and internal damage, I think we could divide that by 8. I think
Ooh,
at least because they
damn.
can take if they can shrug off 6 last shots to the center of mass and be fine.
That's fair.
I think that is easy. And in 15 hours, I think one shot is placed on an orc's chest. He keeps coming. Then he shoots where there should be a liver, spleen, lungs, etc. And the monster keeps coming. And it is described as a monster, but it's a single orc boy. It's not like a war boss or anything.
I think it's also important to state that while, yeah, a single, bolt round is going to go through an orc and whatnot, it doesn't always necessarily kill them.
That's true.
And while, oh, well, you could argue that a space marine can take a lot of bolt rounds, it's only because of their armor. If you just put a single bolt round in the chest cavity of a human space marine, he's done. But in
He's
orc,
done.
you could argue that he's still crumping.
Yeah, he is still crumping because, yeah, Gazgul got half his face blown off by a bolt shell and still kept on. Well, he didn't keep on crumping. He laid down a bit, but then he got better.
Alright, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, this is torso and internal. So I'm gonna say divide by 8.
I think 8's fair. I think 8 is absolutely acceptable, which is terrifying.
Now, blast and extremity trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking limbs being blown off.
So, hang on, wait a second.
Yeah,
Hang on.
yeah, go on.
So you're telling me that out of all these orc boys that, have all these, prosthetic arms, that it doesn't matter to them?
Yeah, have you looked at the beast snaggle orcs? They stick their hands in squig mouths and get them bit off, and they either just get prosthetics, or what they do is they go grab some other orc, get his arm, and then just graft it onto themselves using a pain boy.
Oh my god, I just had a kit bash idea.
Yeah, and also, do you realize that, like, the reason why they're called pain boys is because orcs don't have as many nerve endings, so they don't feel as much pain. Pain is as much a sense as, like, sight and smell are. It just gives information. It's not incapacitating in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So, orcs...
Also,
they
real quick, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah?
My kit bash idea. Okay, so instead of like a claw for a prosthetic, you do a squig.
Oh, do a squig mouth?
Do a squig arm mouth. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Munch Arms McGee.
Mushrooms McGee.
That's good. Oh, you can give him... He can look like a... Okay. This might be a reference. Okay, so you know The Evil Dead?
The what?
The Evil Dead?
Is that a movie?
Oh...
Hello there, it's the editor. I just wanted to interject and say that I am very disappointed in Tyler. That is all. Bye!
Yeah, but like with a squig.
Okay, now imagine, alright, that later he gets it replaced with like a medieval gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now imagine that same concept, where it's like modular,
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
can be a
that's
squig
what I'm
arm.
thinking. Like, okay,
Yeah.
now we got the bomb squig, and now we got the
Exactly.
hair squig for
Exactly.
cheerleading. You can just use it
That's
like a
what I'm
pom
saying.
pom.
Yeah,
I'm
there
here
you
for it.
go.
You could call him
Yeah, yeah.
like Captain Squig, like a hook,
Exactly.
like Captain Hook.
And it could probably be lore accurate because maybe even the squig would make them even bigger and it's even better. Like, here's the thing. An orc that loses maybe like a hand doesn't really suffer for it. It'll just beat whatever did that to them to death, then head to the pain boy to either get a shiny metal arm or an arm that used to belong to a less lucky orc. So
I don't
I would
think they care
argue
about losing external bits.
they don't. And it is true that orcs do bleed, but bleeding out from an extremity, I've never
Heard of
seen
an
an orc
orc
die
die
from
from
that.
blood loss. Never.
Never in my life. So I would argue that they're effectively immune to extremity trauma. They lose stuff like that all the time.
I was hoping you were gonna say that because if you were any number you were gonna say, I was gonna say I could probably argue it not even existing or being applicable.
Yeah, blast extremity trauma, I just don't think happens for orcs. You have
I
to
could-
go like
It'd be the
center of
Monty
mass or
Python skit,
headshots. Oh god.
except like instead of we'll call it a draw, it's just wah. He just starts
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
flopping.
You don't dead space these orcs. You have to like headshot these orcs. You don't dismember them. They'll just yell at you and maybe bite you because they have big tusks.
I'm here for it.
So, respiratory. This gets weird.
Are you going
So-
to pull the funny reference with the space orcs?
So,
Space orcs.
here's the thing. That I do have that reference, but I think we're thinking about a different one.
I don't know if it's
Now-
canon or not.
It depends on the strength of the law, I think is where this comes from. See,
strength of the
orcs in the
law.
xenology book do have it starts with a P, pulmonary muscles like diaphragms, and
Yeah.
they do have something resembling lungs, but they can survive temporary decapitation and not undergo hypoxia.
Yep, and I think that's like 3 minutes or something, and they can last like
Hours.
days.
Yeah, and they can undergo oxygen transfer through their own bodies because, again, they're fungus. And not only are they fungus, which can already absorb oxygen through the osmosis directly, but their green skin comes from chlorophyll, which is a it's not a dye, it's a chemical that is found in chloroplasts, which are in plant cells
God.
that allow them to turn UV energy into oxygen, basically.
I love that my co-host for this show is a fucking teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Spitting all this
I know
smart
the
stuff.
science.
Look at you go, Nick. I'm
Yeah,
proud of you.
let me cook.
I'm letting you cook. I'm
And
so
so-
proud of you.
And so that means that orcs can undergo oxygen transfer basically without lungs, but not to the same capacity as they normally would, because in I think it's Brutal Cunnin, Uftak Blackhawk does breathe and feels the necessity to breathe by like sucking in air into his lungs to like run harder, you know? And so I would argue that this means that their chlorophyllc bodies, as well as the fungus part of their bodies, are able to sustain enough oxygen to keep them alive for a time, but you need more oxygen than just, enabling homeostasis if you want to be fighting a lot.
Okay,
Because-
so I actually had kind of a theory about this.
Yeah?
My theory is like when the old ones made them, they had it to where the lungs can draw in oxygen and they have to breathe, quote unquote, but that's as a fighting feedback loop of, oh, I can feel the air rushing in and it invigorates me to fight more, but it's not like a necessary thing. So they have that the background, they only really need this just for basic function.
Yeah, and this gets me into they can maybe use the chlorophyll and everything for basic functions, but if they're fighting, they need more oxygen in order to get their muscles to pump more. You know what I mean?
That is how, working out works.
Yeah, and as you said, maybe the law has something to do with it. After all, Sometimes, if the wall's strong enough, orcs can just forget they need to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, allow me to quote Orican the Diviner from The Infinite and the Divine. Trazin, our ships are without atmosphere, unpressurized, Orican said. Do orcs breathe? A pause. They have lungs. Now, that is some shenanigans that I think is worthy of at least a 4-fold reduction of respiratory deaths.
I'm sorry.
Maybe even 5.
Pause. I was not expecting that fucking S tier performance. Oh my
thank you.
god. Oh, that was wonderful.
I love the
Bravo.
Infinite Divine.
Bravo, Nick.
I love it so much. Thank you.
An absolutely
Thank you.
amazing reference, too, because that was so fucking hilarious.
Dude, the fact that Trazen's like, they have lungs. It's just...
Well, I mean, maybe.
So, I would say base divide by 4 with Wa, potentially immune, but I would say divide by 4 for this one.
I think that's fair because like they can't just go into space for the most part. We know what you're gonna say. I don't even know if that was canon. I only heard in that one ad read episode.
Well,
hang on.
Okay.
They can't like just be chilling out there forever. They do need to be on a quote unquote survivable atmosphere for the most part.
They need to believe that they are.
They need to believe that they can breathe. At bare minimum.
They can be in an unpressurized space hulk without a Geller field in the warp and still live. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, what does this all give us? How many wounds? Is it 2? Is it 25?
Okay, it's not 25. So let's say an average human we said was 1. A space marine, big old space marine, is still 2. Twice.
Which was kind of surprising, but yeah, 2.
Okay, headshots divide by 4 to 12. Torso divide by 8 to 5. Blast extremity reduced to 0. Respiratory divide by 2. That gives us 5.3 wounds for a single orc boy.
That is some crumpin'.
5 wounds. You better aim for the head, idiots, because if you don't...
What other models like have 5 wounds that you can think of as like a good comparison?
Like not Terminators, I can tell you that. Not Custodians either. Space Marine characters? War Boss and Mega Armor?
Yeah, I think like your Space Marine Captain. I
think that's
like
4 wounds.
5.
Is it Smash Captain?
Yeah, like my Smash
has 6.
Like 5. Well, it's 6 with the shield.
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah, so like that is you have to be a special character because physiologically,
I mean, when we really get down to it, isn't every orc boy a special named character?
In their own world, yes. So, yeah, aim for the head and hit it twice for good luck.
Okay. Only other thing we have left is leadership. So Nick, question. Orcs, right? They're pretty cohesive. They like to focus. They like to, do disciplined tactics, right?
The only reason that would be true is if you're in the Storm Boy Corps. If you are literally any other type of orc, the only reason you listen is because your war boss is breathing down your neck, and if you don't, you're gonna get crumped. And if you get crumped, you can't do crumping, and that's no good.
No, Nick, that's not true. Sometimes they need to cooperate to get all them shiny bits and all them cool stuffs.
Bro, you know as much as me that their mad advance into their enemies is not described as an army as much as it is just a riot. They just run forward, just smacking anyone they see, including their own buddies.
I like how the orc philosophy of war is, instead of having a coordinated military, let's just throw like Florida at you.
Exactly. And that's the thing. When orcs get fixated on something, they will nearly destroy themselves to get to it. Like, sure, they'll run if they need to crump you another day, and maybe they'll send out the grots first to soak enemy fire because they're brutal cunning.
That's a good point. I was reading it was a Krieg book, but there's like one part where this orc is like really pissed off at like this one dude. It was like a whole group of orcs on bikes, and they literally all just like ran into each other and blew up and killed themselves just to get that one guy.
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean,
They're dedicated.
when they're fixated on something, yeah. So
Employee of the month.
this gets into the idea of what leadership represents. Does it represent the morale and unshakability of the troops, or does it
We've already
represent?
said it doesn't.
Yeah, or does it represent?
At least in entirety.
Yeah, or does it represent just the overall cohesion? Because this is where we need to put our foot down and say that it's more than just morale.
Yeah, because like we've said, Space Marines, they shall know no fear. It's more about, will I listen to my lieutenant or will I crump?
Exactly. With an orc, it's, okay, is there anyone directly telling me I can't do this? No, I'm doing it.
I'm
Okay,
putting my hand in the cookie jar.
Exactly. Is there someone telling me I can't do this? Yes. Can I beat them up? Okay, if I can't beat them up, then I won't stop. But if I can beat them up, I will, and then I'll do it.
Orcs are just unruly toddlers.
This is the reason why war bosses are bigger. Because if they weren't bigger, no one would listen to them.
This is great. I love this. This is such an amazing episode.
Yeah, so I'd say the average orc boy, like, again, this is just based on vibes, because there's no, like, reports of how many orcs, like, listen
out
or
of
whatever.
25 orcs, 25 of them broke battle formation.
Yeah, I would say if we're looking solely on their ability to follow orders and not just follow their instincts to crush, we're looking at a maybe 25% chance to keep their head on straight if their boss knob is around.
I'm here for it.
Now, because the Orc Boy Squad comes with a boss knob by default, he has the big pole, he has a power claw, or a big choppa, that will put their leadership at a solid 9 up, 27.76% chance.
Oh, yeah.
To succeed.
Solid.
You know?
Solid. Easy.
27%. Now, here's the thing. I think we want to make this really lore accurate. If their boss knob, or like if another boss character like a Big Mech or a War Boss isn't around, then I would argue there should be a mechanic where if the boss knob dies and there's no other like substitute like a War Boss around,
kind of like Tyranid
it drops to like an 11.
like Tyranid Synapse.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Because dude, they don't care about objective control. They will just crump. Now,
you know what? I'm applying this to the next game. You aren't allowed to use stratagems. You have to hit everything on a 9 or 10 up.
Homie, that assumes stratagems are given by command. No, command points aren't like the general telling them what to do. It's what feels right in the moment. What's genetically encoded in them for what to do here.
I'm gonna take my orders from my Space Marine captain.
Oh my gosh. Hey, listen, man. Get all the comm beads you want. Get all the radio signals you want. When the radio goes out, does your army still have cohesion? No, it does not. When my army gets out there... Listen, man. You could send us out there with nothing but a sheet of paper that says go, and we'll do our job.
Yes. We have our orders. Yes. Okay. Crump.
Crump. And so, we're going to crump ourselves to a 9 up leadership. And that is being conservative.
Yikes.
So,
well, we did it. And by we, I mean you, but I'm going to capitalize off of it.
All right. Hit us. Tell us, put the new Orc Boy up on there.
It's glorious. We have a 6-inch movement. T6. 7-up save. Also, if you're a new player, 7-up saves are impossible. So, but, nothing. 5 wounds and leadership 9 for your average boy.
And as of the time of recording, 8 points a model.
Ooh. 8 points for 5 wounds.
5 wounds of peace.
Crumpin'.
5 wounds, 6 toughness 6. They're not tanky. They're just beefy.
Beefy. Well,
All right.
okay. I think you did an outstanding job, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm here for.
So real quick, before we get out of here, first off, if you liked this video and you have other ideas and you want to see more of the series, please share them. Please join the Discord to share them. If you think we did good, YouTube pleasantries are always, graciously accepted. It helps boost the algorithm. And we also have another announcement. First off, congratulations to, insert shitty voiceover of whoever won here for the Halloween giveaway. I'll get it out to you as soon as I can. Nick, do you want to tell the viewers what we have coming up on November 16th?
Alrighty. So, my buddy Jonathan, I mentioned him as the dude who helped me put together faction play styles. He is running a local tournament in our area, and me and Tyler have been graciously invited to host/stream during the tournament.
We've done it. We've hit the big leagues.
We've done it. It's a Rogue Trader tournament, nothing like super big, but it's enough because we've been wanting to do something covering tournaments in the competitive scene, what it's like, all that good stuff. And what better way to do that than some live coverage with a little bit of painting, a little bit of gameplay pictures, maybe some interviews.
We'll have some interviews with some professional painters, possibly.
That is an if. Don't put that in the ether.
It's a big if. If not, we'll get John's a quote unquote professional painter. We can use him.
He does commissions, yeah. We're going to be doing some stuff at the Queen City Clash. It's going to be fantastic. I am absolutely stoked. November 16th is when that is going to be. So tune into this channel. We're going to try and live stream. If not, we are going to have a long form video that has all of our recordings and stuff in there. And I'm just stoked. I was looking forward to this tournament for a while.
I was so excited. This gets me into the cool guy circle.
Oh yeah, this is really like it's definitely a badge to put on Tyler's hat of hey, you've done this podcast.
I even made a hoodie to wear while I'm there. But so real quick, November 16th. What?
Is it too late to bow out? You made a hoodie?
Shut up. Anyways, so we'll be streaming the 16th. A little bit after that, we will have a tournament-focused video. And the stream is going to be fun. It's going to be painting. It's going to be joking. It's going to be talking about the game. We're going to be pretending we're like NFL hosts. It's going to be funny.
Yep, and I actually know how competitive play works, so I can teach Tyler about, some of the states of the armies nowadays.
When we were first going over this, Nick was like, oh, you have to learn all the rules. And I'm like, cool. So, I'm glad it's not bad.
Bro hasn't read an FAQ in his life.
I have. Other than that, I don't think we have anything else to cover. I'm not going to do this on every video. I will mention it on this video just because this is a new thing we're doing. I did make a Patreon. It's not something I want to do, but this project, this channel is nothing but a drain on my pocket, which I'm fine with because I do love doing this. But I would like to get to the point where we can break even, and everything past that is going to go back to you guys or the community through giveaways, charity. I think we'll talk about maybe giving it to some local Warhammer 40k school groups if we can. So it's in our first Patreon post. Nothing you guys will give us will ever go to ourselves. It will go to the team, through the editors and the artists, and back to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So support us if you do. If not, I'm totally fine paying out of pocket.
If the increase in quality over the past 3 or 4 videos is any indication that we are committed to this, then keep that in mind.
Yeah, it hopefully is showing through these pretty nice thumbnails and this beautiful art that we have going on. So,
well, we'll see how much better it is next time.
Yeah. Also, sorry about that. the past audio issues. I think we got it all sorted out. I think it's going to be good now.
All right,
Nick,
well, I guess we'll.
anything you want to say before we get out and out of here?
I mean, have a good Orktober. Have a good, painting season. Try and paint something green, and if not, have some good spooky seasons. Watch some good movies. I mean, do your thing, man. I'm chilling.
Yeah. You know what? Movie recommendation. Give us a good Halloween movie. Quick, Nick.
Oh, The
Good
Crow.
spooky.
Easy.
Good. Oh, really? I heard that was awful.
Okay, not the new one. I mean, like the original
the
1996
original.
one with Brendan Lee. Are you kidding me?
Okay,
Who do you think I am?
Okay, Nick,
I
okay,
am
calm down.
Mr. Orktober. Don't you dare.